Sorry about that. Technical difficulties. I think for some reason my laptop stopped recording. Hopefully this is still working out alright. Yeah, hopefully this is gonna work out alright. I guess I might have to just upload this lesson in 2 parts, but no problem. We'll work through it. So now we just gotta take the same lines that we had from earlier. We're going to put those bubbles around the factors that we see that are common. So we've got 2's, 2's, and 2's that we can put those bubbles around, right? So when we're finding our HCF will be, we've got a bubble with a 2 inside, another bubble with a 2, and a third bubble with a 2. And you can see that nothing else over there is common, just the same way that we were getting it to be a little bit earlier. So our highest common factor would be 2 times 2 times 2, which matches up with what we were getting before, that our highest common factor is 8. Alrighty, last but not least, a little bit of that test review. So a couple things to remember, not necessarily anything to write down, but just a couple of things to remember. So your quiz, test, whatever you want to call it, quest, test, exam, I don't know, whatever you want to call it. It's going to involve lowest common multiple and highest common factor. So you will be given groups of numbers, and you will be asked to find either the lowest common multiple or the highest common factor. If it's a nice group of numbers, maybe I could ask you both, find the lowest common multiple and the highest common factor. And you can use whatever method you like. You can use the prime factorization thing. If you really like that listing thing, then you can feel free to use that as well. Or you can do this division method. Remember, just for lowest common multiple and highest common factor, there are a couple of slight differences, right? If you're doing the division thing, then for lowest common multiple, they're all together. But for highest common factor, they're separate. And if you're doing the prime factorization thing, then up until you find all the prime factors, it's the same thing, but then you've got to do something different with them at the end to get your final answer. So to make sure you're doing the right thing, just one more thing for you to remember, to make sure you're doing the right thing with the numbers that you get, just remember that for LCM, that M stands for multiple, right? We're talking lowest common multiple. Just remember that multiples are either going to be larger than or equal to the biggest number that you're dealing with in the question, right? So the biggest, I'll just say biggest number. So multiples will be either the same size as or larger than the biggest number in your question. And factors are going to be the opposite. Factors are going to be smaller than or equal to the smallest number that's given to you in the question. So for example, if I gave you the numbers 12, 24, this example, 12, 24, and 48, then if I asked you to find the lowest common multiple, your lowest common multiple in this case would be 48, and your highest common factor would be 12. You can go through it and see if I've done that right, but notice that your multiple will never be smaller than the largest number in the problem. So it's either going to be 48 or bigger. And for your factors, it'll never be smaller than, or so for your multiples, it'll never be smaller than the largest number, and for your factor, your highest common factor, it'll never be larger than the smallest number. So in this case, it'll either be 12 or smaller. Right, so those are just a couple of things you can, if you can remember those on the test, then you can check to make sure that you found the LCM and not the HCF by mistake, you know? So those are a couple of little things to be watchful of. But yeah, other than that, hopefully everything else has been reasonably straightforward. After you guys get through this quiz, we will be jumping right into our next unit, which I believe is going to be on fractions and decimals. I'm going to double check that, but either way you will see that coming up in the next video, or possibly next video or two, depending on if you guys want extra practice on this stuff. My apologies again for that technical difficulty that's resulted in this lesson being sort of split up into two parts, but you didn't miss anything in the time that the camera stopped recording, but hopefully this is all making sense, and I will see you in the next video. Have a good one.